Yo, what's up guys? It's Cash Dog coming at you with a Wizard101 PvP video today, and I'm going to be showing you my max 125 balance wizard who is currently captain, but hopefully on the way to Warlord. I don't have the best win-loss ratio, but I'm working on it. So anyway, many people who are new to PvP, they may not even know how to start, so I'm going to make a guide for y'all just to kind of show you some of the best balanced PvP gear, some strategies, and some spells that you definitely need to have. I'll also make some of my personal recommendations along the way. So without further ado, we will get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be talking about is hats, and when it comes to hats, there's really only two good options, and the first one is the Mask of the Exalted One, which is dropped by Malistaire, the Undying, at the end of the graveyard here in Darkmoor. So basically, you'll round up a group of 4 people, go through the dungeon, and if you defeat him, he has a chance of dropping it. So that'll be your first option. And then the second option is the Crocopatra Justice Fez. And so you can get that as a drop from the Exalted version of Crocopatra. And so you battle her in the Crocopatra Exalted duel. So you can get that duel from the Crown Shop for 500 crowns, or you can go to Crocotopia and battle Crocopatra herself and get the duel as a drop. So this is what the duel will look like. So now I will go to the entrance of the Crocopatra dungeon and show you where you can go farm this duel if you choose to do that option. Or you can buy it from the Crown Shop, like I said. So you can come here in Crocotopia and farm for the Exalted duel. So overall, these are really the best hats in the game. They give really good health, power pip chance, pierce, resistance, critical, damage, and shadow pip chance. So for those reasons, it makes them really awesome. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about is robes, and when it comes to robes, kind of like the hats, there's really only two good options. So the first one is the Drape of the Exalted One, and you can get that from Malistaire the Undying at the end of the graveyard here in Darkmoor, just like the hat, so that is your first option. And then the second option is the Bone Smasher Robe of Poise, and so you can get that from the Rattlebones Exalted duel, kind of like the Crocopatra Exalted duel. So, basically, you'll go into this duel with 4 people, kind of like the Crocopatra Exalted duel, and he has a chance of dropping the Rattlebone or the Bone Smasher Robe of Poise. And both robes have really, comparable stats, but both are very, very good. So you can buy this duel from the Crown Shop for 500 crowns, or you can go to Rattlebones on Unicorn Way and farm him to get the duel. Then you can go home, place it down, and try the Exalted duel and maybe get this as a drop. So those are your two options. They both have really awesome health, a good power pip chance, accuracy, damage, resistance, critical, and they give shadow pip boost as well. And they also give 2 item cards with them that you may find useful in certain PvP situations. So for that reason, for those reasons, all of them, these are 2 of the best robes in the game. Alright, so now we're going to talk about boots, and my first pick is going to be the Cabal Stompers of Disruption. You can get those as a drop from the bosses within the Secret Tunnel dungeon here in the Aerial Jungle of Imperia. So basically you go in there and you can farm the bosses and they have a chance to drop it. Here's location on the map. So that's going to be my first option. The second one is going to be the Sabotons of the Exalted One. So just like all the other Exalted gear, you can get that as a drop from Malistaire the Undying at Darkmoor at the end of the Graveyard dungeon. So just to show you guys where that's at, you can go to Nightshade and just come through the portal, and of course the Graveyard dungeon is just right through here. So that'll be my second pick. Also has very good stats. They're a little bit different than the Cabal Stompers, but also very comparable to all the options overall that I'm going to go through. So this is the second option. You could also do the ancient Persian Galesh or boots. Those are also very good picks. So you can get those as a drop from the Gulcher Horde pack from the Crown Shop, and they are 399 crowns right here. And then the last option is going to be the Consistent Clogs from the Professor's Horde pack. So that is also another pack right here beside the Gulcher's Horde pack. And so I'm going to have all the stats displayed on the screen, but all of them have pretty decent health except for the Exalted boots. They're a little suffering in the health, but other than that, they have pretty decent pip chance except for the Cabal Stompers. They have pretty decent resistance. Most of them have accuracy, except for the Ancient Persian Galatian boots. Most of them have a pretty good amount of critical, except for the exalted ones. They have block instead. The boots also have, the exalted boots have pierce, which is a little different from the others, but that's another added benefit. And most of them have pretty decent damage as well, and a shadow pit bonus. So overall, it really just depends on your setup. The stats are similar in some ways and different others, but depending on your setup, you may want to go for one with more critical block, you may want to go for one with more accuracy, you may want to go for one with more critical rating, you may want to go for one with more resistance, power pip chance, or damage. It really just depends, but all of these are great options for PvP. Alright, so now we're going to talk about wands, and the first wand we're going to talk about is the Focused Bow, which you can make as a Revered Crafter. So you can get the recipe from the Fire Scholar here at the Arcanum, and basically it's a big ordeal to complete the quest and to get all of the ingredients together, but if you get them all together you can create this bow, which is a very, very good wand, has really awesome stats. So that's your first option. Another option is to get the Malastare wand. So you can go to Darkmoor, go to the graveyard, and go through the whole dungeon and defeat Malastare the Undying at the very end, and he could drop the Staff of the Voidstalker. It also has very good stats, good critical, good pierce, and good block. So that's also another option. And then the other three options I have are all pack wands or bundle wands. So the first one is going to be the Witch Hunter's Arbalist. So you can get that from the Witch Hunter bundle. It's currently $39, and I'm not sure which store you can get it from, but I know for sure you can buy it online through places like eBay and Amazon. So it comes with the Witch Hunter's Arbalist. It's a Maycast wand. It's got damage, pierce, critical, and pip conversion, and so it's very, very good. The other two options are going to be the Shard Warrior's Hammer, and you can get that from the Jewel Crafter bundle, and that one is $29. And I'm not sure where you get that one either, but I know you can buy it online and order it through places like Amazon and eBay. So that one also has very good stats, very good pierce, critical, and some block as well. And then the last option is going to be the Fortune Teller's Peerless Eye, and you can get that one from the Terror's Horde pack. It comes with very high critical and block, and it comes with a little bit of damage and pierce as well. And the awesome thing about it is that it's a Maycast wand, and it has it does 1,000 lunar moon damage, so it is super helpful for PvP. Those Maycasts are almost game changers sometimes. So I'm gonna have all the stats on the screen again, like I said. The stats among these vary a little bit between Maycast, pierce, damage, critical, block, and all that stuff, but these are all very good options. It really just depends on your setup, but these are my top 5 favorite picks. Alright, so on to Athames. Whoa, 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 whoa. Like, how do you even pronounce that word? Athame? Maybe? Let's see. There's a whole video about it.
Atem.
What? That is definitely not right. Let's see this one.
Athame.
Athame, okay. Athame. See, but it looks like you would say Athame. I don't know. The first one is going to be the one dropped by the Ghoul boss, the Night Creeper at the beginning of the graveyard. So he drops the Athame of the Dark Usurper. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, but anyway, that is one of the best Athames in the game, so that's going to be the first option. The next one is going to be the crafted wand from Chrysalis. So if you teleport to this location, and I'll pull a map up for it. But if you go to this crafter, Wozina is her name, you can craft the Elder's Razor of Caution. She has a recipe for it, and it also gives really good stats. And of all the Athames I'm going to mention, this one has Pierce on it, and Pierce is super important for PvP. So this is a really good option if you're trying to go for a higher Pierce strategy. but this is definitely one really good option. Another one is the Athame of the Chosen One, and so you can get that as a drop from Morganth at the Shadow Palace. I will show a little map on the screen for that, but that is also an option. And then the last one is going to be the Duelist Fatal Razor, and so you have to buy this one with arena tickets. So it's going to cost you 5,500 arena tickets, and you can buy it from Brandon Mistborn here on Unicorn Way, right in front of the arena. Here he is right here. And this one's unique because it gives critical. So kind of like I said before with the other pieces of equipment, it really just depends on what your strategy is going to be, because all of these Athames are really, really great. But depending on what your strategy is, you may want one with more damage, more pierce, more critical. But these four are definitely the best of the best for PvP. So these are my top 4 picks. So now we're going to talk about amulets, and the first one is the Traveling Dead's Charm, which you can get from Shane Von Shane here in Darkmoor. So you go into Castle Darkmoor and you will battle him in the Upper Halls mini dungeon, and he's the very last boss, and you can get the Traveling Dead's Charm from him. So that's the first option. You could also go for Morganth's Shadow of Amber, and so you can get that as a drop from Morganth at the end of Chrysalis. So here's the dungeon. Here's a picture of where it is on the map. So you go in here and you'll battle Morganth in her 4 forms, and she has a chance to drop the Shadow of Amber. Also has very, very good stats. Another option would be the Talisman of Decorum dropped by the Rat. So you could come here to the end of Polaris. These all seem to be like final bosses, but you can come to the end of Polaris and battle the Rat, and he could drop the Talisman of Decorum. That's also a very good option. And then our last option is going to be the Athame dropped by Hades, which is called the Amulet of Divine Influence. So you can get that from here. You go into the Hades battle here in Aquila, Tartarus, and he has a chance to drop that. So those are the 4 best, the best amulets in my opinion. And they, you know, kind of like all the armor, they differ slightly. They're all very similar, but they do have their slight nuances. So it really just depends on your strategy. You may want something with more block. You may want something with more critical. You may want something with more pierce, or you may want something with more resist. So it really just depends, but they're all very good. On to rings. So the first ring is going to be the Loop of the Umbra Legion. You can get that here from Morganth at the end of Chrysalis, the final battle. Another option would be, what's it called? Aphrodite ring. You can get that from the Golden Skeleton Key boss here at Darkmoor. It's in the graveyard, so you will battle, you'll battle that gold creature in the first battle. Then you can go over to the left side, and there's a Golden Skeleton Key boss. You'll have to have a Golden Skeleton Key, obviously, to get in there. And you can battle Aphrodite, and she has an Athame that's also very good. Another option would be the Alpha and Omega ring, which you can get from Aquila. So you can come and battle the Gladiator here at Mount Olympus, and he has a chance to drop the Alpha and Omega ring. Also has very, very good stats. And then our last option is going to be the Duelist Daredevil ring, and you can get that from Brandon Mistborn for arena tickets. So you can come here and buy that for arena tickets, and it also has very good stats. This is one of the only ones with Pierce, so like I've said before, Pierce is very important for PvP. So those are going to be my 4 top picks for rings. Those are going to be my 4 top picks for rings. And they are absolute must-haves for PvP. Alright, so now for decks, the first option is going to be the deck that the rat at the end of Polaris, and that will be our first option. The next one is going to be the one dropped by Omen, So he is a golden skeleton key boss in Polaris. So here he is on the map. He is located at the River of Frozen Tears. So basically you'll go in here and let me tell you, it is a very difficult battle. But you will need a golden skeleton key. You'll go in here and he has a chance to drop it. It is very rare to get though, so plan on farming him for a while. And then the last option is going to be the Duelist Devil May Care deck, which you can get with arena tickets from Mr. Brandon Mistborn right outside of the arena. And if you don't know, the best way to get arena tickets is to pay gold and do the tournaments. So you can get enough arena tickets to buy this deck. So those are going to be my top 3 picks for decks. Alright, so now we're going to talk about pets, and when it comes to pets, there's 3 good options. There's triple doubles, there are ward pets, and there are hybrids. So a triple double is just going to be your basic pet with 3 damage talents and 2 resistant talents. So those can be really helpful for obvious reasons. They give you universal resistance to all schools, so that's really helpful. And then they give you more balanced damage, which you're obviously going to be using to deal more damage to other players. So those can be very helpful. Ward pets are also super helpful because they give you 15% more damage resistance to that school. And that is huge because that is just 15% more damage that a player would have to pierce through to do the same amount of damage they would have done otherwise. So ward pets are also super helpful and sometimes even overpowered because it almost forces your opponent to have to use more pierce or strike or something like that. So for that reason they can be very helpful. And then another option would be some kind of hybrid between damage, resistance, ward, and maybe even healing. So you can do really any combination of those things. You could even do a Maycast Infallible, you could do a Maycast Fortify, you could do a Maycast Enfeeble, and then also you may want to choose a pet that comes with a card for free on top of that. So it really just depends. So those are really the best options for pets. Alright, so now we're going to talk about jewels, and we're going to start with the triangle jewel. So there's really 2 good options for your triangle jewel slots, and the first one is going to be the Lustrous Pip Opal. So that can give you upwards of 10% power pip chance, which is super helpful if your power pip chance is not already at or near 100%, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting a noob pip when you're trying to hit and then you can't cast the spell that you want to cast. So you can get the Lustrous Pip Opal from certain enemies and bosses across Chrysalis, Polaris, Mirage, and Imperia. You could also get them from some of the jewel packs in the crown shop for 599 crowns. Or you can get it from, what's his name? Jordo Mistborn, outside of the arena for 275 arena tickets. So those are your options to get that. Another good triangle jewel is going to be the Shiny Accurate Citrine, and that'll give you either 11 or 12% accuracy. And that is super important because you definitely want to have at least 15 to 20% accuracy so you can cast all your balance spells and not worry about fizzling. In some cases, you may even get a mantle put on you during PvP, so you may even want more accuracy than that, maybe even 30%. So slotting this jewel on your armor will give you 12% of that 30 you're trying to acquire, so it's super helpful in that aspect. And you can get, I know for sure you can get the Shiny Accurate jewels from high-level bosses across the worlds I mentioned, or you can get them from the Balanced Jewel Pack in the Crown Shop. So those are going to be your options for triangle jewels. So for square jewel slots, there's 3 good options. There's Flat Resist, which basically just subtracts damage from the final amount of damage being dealt to you, so that can be really helpful for overtime spells. You could also do Incoming Healing square jewels. I believe they're called Shiny Healing Opals. You can get those from high-level bosses and some of the jewel packs, and they can give you 5 to 6% incoming healing. So if you're a balanced wizard that likes to heal as part of your strategy, putting a couple of those on your armor can really make your heal more powerful and more significant and really helpful. And then the last option is going to be stun-resistant jewels. So if you put a couple of those on, it does give you a small chance to resist a stun without putting your stun blocks up. So let's say you forget, or you don't get your stun block up in time, and someone uses a stunning spell on you, you have a chance to resist it. And that can be really helpful because it can save you from losing a round in a PvP tournament. And sometimes losing a round can cost you the whole game. So those are definitely the 3 best square jewel slots. And you could get most of these jewels from the upper level bosses in Chrysalis, Polaris, Mirage, and Imperia, or some of them from the jewel packs. And you can even get the flat resist jewels and the power pip jewel with arena tickets outside. You can go to talk to one of the Mistborn guys outside, and I believe he sells some of these jewels. You just got to get some arena tickets, and you can get those from some of the tournaments. So those are the best square jewels. Moving on to circle jewels, you definitely want to go for a 6% pierce jewel for your school. In this case, it will be the piercing balance citrine 6%. So you can get those from the balanced jewel packs and from some upper level bosses and creatures across the worlds I've mentioned. But the pierce is super important for breaking down your opponent's resistance and some of their shields, so you can do as much damage as possible and win that match. So definitely the 6% balanced citrine, the circle jewel, is a must-have for balanced PvP. And lastly, we're going to talk about tier jewels, and the best tier jewels are going to be the sparkling health opals, and they can give you anywhere from, like, I think it's 115 to 119 extra health. So it's not that much, but you definitely want to have as much health as possible so that when you're taking damage, you do have a little bit of leeway so that you can tank some of the hits that are coming your way. So they do give you just a little bit of extra health, which, you know, can be a little helpful in balanced PvP. So we're going to wrap up talking about jewels with some star jewels, and those are ones that you can slot on your pet. So some good options could be the Armor Breaker Opal. You can get that from the Jewel Star Blossom plant, and that basically gives you more armor piercing, which is significant because you can break down your opponent's resistance. You could also do a Balance Dealer Citrine. That can give you 9% extra balance damage, which is obviously helpful in doing more damage to your opponent. Those are dropped by upper level monsters, and I think you can craft them with a jewel recipe from the Pet Pavilion. Some other good options are ward citrines, or not ward citrines, ward jewels, just any of the ward jewels in general. So, you know, they're each going to have a different name, but that can give you 15% more resistance to any school of your choosing. So that can be really helpful by, you know, you'll take less damage and you'll create a situation where sometimes your opponent may even have to Shrike to deal significant damage to you. So it really reduces that damage and helps you live longer. Another good option could be the Mighty Opal. So if you do a triple double pet, the Mighty Opal can boost some of those damage stats up 1%, and it can also boost some of those resistance stats up 1%. So you could go from having 15% resistance from Spell Proof and Spell Defying to 17, potentially, depending on your pet stats. So it's really selective and specific, but sometimes that jewel can be really helpful. Another good one, the Stun Resistant Opals, I believe. Yeah, you can get those for your pet. They can add a little bit more stun resistance if you are going for that kind of strategy, and of course stun resistance will allow you to potentially resist a stun and not lose your turn for a round, which, you know, can be a game changer sometimes. And the last two are going to be the Spell Defying and Spell Proof Opals. So if you train your pet and they fail and they don't get the talent that you want, these talents will give you 5 or 10% universal resistance, and that is super important to keep your resistance high so you can tank as much damage as possible in PvP. Of course, I'm not going to mention all the jewels, but those are just some good options. You could also do some May cast jewels that could cast Infallible or in some kind of healing effect. Those are also really good options. So it really just depends on your strategy, but those are definitely some of the best star jewels you can put on your pets. Alright, so next we're going to talk about mounts, and I know this might seem a little bit silly, but there are actually mounts that do give you some stats. So, the first mount is going to be the Wildling Witch Hut, and you can get that from the Witch Horde pack. It gives you 2% more power pip chance. So, it's very small, but it could be helpful if you don't have 100% power pip chance yet. So, I mean, it is a very small stat, but nonetheless, it could be helpful. There are two pets that give 2% armor piercing, and that's going to be the Vulpine Avenger and the Clockwork Courser, and you can get those from the Avalon Outlaw bundle and the Cuckoo Clock Gauntlet bundle. So they give 2% piercing, which obviously breaks down your opponent's resistance and shields, so that could be helpful, definitely. There's also the Crystal Unicorn. It gives 2% accuracy, so if your accuracy is not that high, that could also be helpful. It's universal accuracy as well, so if you're casting a spell that's not your own, it will tag that accuracy onto those spells as well. And then the last one is going to be the Balance Gulcher, and it gives 2% universal damage. So it just gives you a little bit more damage, not that significant, but a little bit helpful. Oh, and I didn't mention the Desert Racer. That also gives you 2% power pip chance, kind of like the Wildling Witch Hut. So while these stats are really small and not that significant, they can be somewhat helpful. Just a little extra nudge to put you slightly higher than your opponent. So I'm just going to tag those in there. They're not necessary, but if you do want them, they are options. So that's what we have for mounts. I'm going to talk about a couple cards. So the first one you're going to want to have is Reshuffle. You can have that as a treasure card in your side deck, or as an item card, or as a regular card. It doesn't really matter. But having Reshuffle will be helpful if you discard all your spells or use them all. So it's just good to have it just in case. You may also want to have Shadow Strike and Shadow Trickster, either one. So if you have really high critical and really high pierce, you may want to go for Trickster, because it gives you 60% more critical, and if you use some kind of spell that puts a negative ward on them, like Lore Master, you'll also steal a pip. So that can be helpful for that kind of strategy. Or if you think you're going to be going against opponents with higher pierce, or higher resistance, and you want to pierce more and do a little bit more damage, Shadow Strike will give you 50% pierce and 10% more damage. So both of those are really good options. You also probably want to have Stun and Freeze, and that's just so you can stun your opponent for an extra round and potentially do a move you couldn't have otherwise done. Maybe you need to get an extra pip, something like that. And you can get those as treasure cards from the Bazaar. You can get Reshuffle from Colossus Boulevard, or you can just go get it as a treasure card from the Bazaar as well, or you can craft it. And you can get the 2 Shadow spells from the Shadow Professor at the Arcanum. You also probably want to have Stun Block to prevent someone from stunning you in the same fashion that you would probably do to them. Weaknesses are also really good. So you can get a 25% item card weakness that you can train from the Balance school teacher, or you can get a 30% weakness as a treasure card. And I think the 30% one's just a little bit better, because that 5% is small, but it is pretty significant, I think. For Star Schools, you may want to have Brace, treasure card, Fortify. You may want Infallible, or treasure card Infallible, or Flawless. And those all will either give you 20% negative incoming damage, or 15 to 20% more pierce and accuracy. And pierce is super important to break down your opponent's resistance and shields. So I would definitely say go for the treasure card versions. Black Mantles are also pretty good. If you've already used a Dispel and a Stun on them, a Black Mantle could make them fizzle again, and you could just take another round. So there's a negative 55 and 60% version of them, and those are both really good. Dispels can also be helpful. So for a Dispel, if you put on a Dispel for the spell they're going to use, it will make them fizzle and eat up all the pips that that spell would have cost. So if you can anticipate well, those can be super overpowered. Also, Tower Shields, you can train that from the Ice Professor in Ravenwood, or you can get the 55% treasure card version, and basically it's universal resistance. So those can be really helpful, especially for balance, because there's not really a shield for them. I like the 55% version as a treasure card, just because that can be really helpful to have that extra 5%, because that's just more they have to pierce through. Lore Master, so you can either craft that with the recipe from Grady and Avalon, or you can go to Dragonspire and farm Lore Master for it and get it as an item card or a regular card. So those are really helpful because they put a mantle, a weakness, and they do a good amount of damage. So those are really good, must have for balance, super powerful. Some people carry Triage, and that is to remove overtime spells that Myth and Fire Wizards may put on you. So that's also something you may want to carry as a treasure card. For Star School spells, you probably want to have Epic Colossus Epic Colossal or Gargantuan, and those are just to enchant your cards to do more damage. So those are just a couple of cards I think you should have. By no means is it all you should have. You should probably have some other things as well, but those are just some ones I think are really important. So now I'm going to show you my favorite gear setup, and that's going to be the Exalted Hat, Exalted Robe, the Consistent Clogs, or the Persian Galesh or Boots. Either one's really good. The Witch Hunter Arbalist, or the Staff of the Void Stalker, the Duelist Fatal Razor, the Traveling Dead's Charm, the Duelist Daredevil Ring. I like the triple double pet. You could also go with the ward pet though, or some kind of hybrid, but I like my triple double. The Clockwork Courser for 2% Pierce, and the Duelist Devil May Care. And mainly because I'm trying to expound on damage, resistance, and critical. So these are what the stats will look like. So 117 damage, that's pretty good. 58% universal resistance and 63% resistance to balance. I'm probably going to take these flat resist off and put something else there, but for now that's what I have. 42% accuracy, so I will pretty much never fizzle unless I get a mantle on me, but odds are I'll probably power with that kind of accuracy. 609 critical rating, and that is 57% critical, so that is awesome. You will be doing tons of damage and healing, so that's really the kind of stat I was going for. For block, so I'm not really paying it much attention to block, so you pretty much won't block, but part of my strategy is to put up shields and have pretty good resistance, so I'm hoping that counters it, and I mean, so far I found it does pretty well. 40% pierce, that's really good. If someone has about 50% resistance, this will take nearly all of it away, so that's awesome. 20% heal, so that's pretty good if you're going for a healing strategy. With the critical, that'll do tons of healing. 44% pip conversion. This isn't a super necessary stat, but if you do use an odd numbered pip spell, odds are you might get a pip back, so that can be helpful sometimes. 6% shadow pip chance, that's pretty standard. And then 97% power pip, which is almost 100, so you will likely be getting power pips all the time. So that's my favorite setup. This is what my deck looks like, and this is what my side deck looks like. And pretty much I go for the enchanted version of the shields and the weaknesses just because they do a little bit more. I've got a couple weaknesses in case I don't pull one in my regular deck. The Spirit Diffuse and Empower are pretty much just for Juju spammers because those have become really annoying. And here's the stuns, and if I don't pull a stun block, I've got those as my treasure cards as well. I've got a couple set shields here, enchants, a couple more stun blocks. So these Gaze of Fate do tons of damage and they change the bubble, but I've also got this one just in case. Here's my heals, and my pet gives heals, so I can pack a couple less and do something else. Judgment for final hits, because you don't want to use up all your pips, but if it's going to be your last hit, you can enchant this and do a pretty good amount of damage. You want as many lore masters as possible. Mana burns to steal pips, punish someone for loading up on pips, and take them away. I like the helpful Mander minion. They can be really good as well, so I pack a couple of those. The Sandworm, so if you don't have enough pips and you just want to do a one hit and you've already have a bubble up, the Sandworm is a really good option. Scorpions, so if you enchant these, it's a 2-pip hit and it can do over 1,000 damage with your damage percentage if you enchant it and everything. And these are really good for taking out minions if another opponent decides to cast those. Here's Supernova, so it's 60%, you have 42% accuracy, so you will be powering those unless you get mantled, and you can enchant these, and for 2 pips you can really punish someone for putting up an aura. I like to go for Shadow Strike. I know I've got pretty high pierce, but I really just like to pierce through everything. You could go for Trickster, it really just depends. Trickster really is just overpowered with the Lore Master strategy, so it depends on if you're going to spam that or go for something else, but I like to go for something else. And then I've got 2 Balance Dispels, and that's really just to prevent someone else from putting one on me, or if I go against a Balanced Wizard, that can prevent them from doing a hit. And then I've got my reshuffles down here, my wand hits for a Maycast, Poison, and 2 cloaks. You could get rid of the cloaks, but I like to keep them in. So that's really my setup and my strategy. Pretty much just shield up, put weaknesses on them, load up on pips. Not too many, especially if you're going against a balance, because you don't want them to use mana burn on you. But get a good amount of pips and go Shrike, and you can use Lore Master, Gaze, and Sandworm and Scorpion and just do massive amounts of damage. So that's really the best way to go. So that is going to be my advice for your card setup, strategy, and gear. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. If you think I may have left something out, make sure to let me know down in the comments. I plan to be making some more videos in the future, so feel free to let me know if you got any ideas, and I will make sure to check them out. So I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!